This is the Rebel Scum Podcast. Available in video on YouTube and audio wherever you listen to your podcasts. Every week, Brock and James talk the latest rumors, news, and theories from a galaxy far, far away. Support us on Patreon for exclusive offers and join the Star Wars discussion. Patreon.com/RebelScumPodcast. Here are your hosts, Brock and James.
You're always scum. Rebel scum.
We are here. I am here. Anyway, James is in a lot of places because he's in his vehicle. I'm Andrew Fantasia. Hello, Patreon people, and welcome to a in-depth discussion on the final episode of Obi Wan Kenobi because it's over, James. It's over.
It's over.
Oh boy, it's something that we have been looking forward to and hoping it exists since like 2012, and now it finally happened, and it's over. How do you feel?
I feel like I remember when Solo was coming out. I don't know if you remember. And everyone was like, "We need an Obi-Wan movie. We don't want Solo. We want Obi-Wan." And then Solo did what it did or didn't do in the box office, and they kind of scrapped the Obi-Wan thing, and then they said it was going to be a show instead, and I guess they took the movie scripts and like divvied it up into a short story. But so like it was weird like watching it. I'm like, this is like the culmination of, because you remember the director of Billy Elliot at one point was rumored to be helming the Obi-Wan movie. It's weird. It's like this completion of this arc with Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, and we might get another season or whatever. But it's weird because like it started 24 years ago, whatever it is now, 24 years ago, and he got to put a little bow tie on his journey as Obi-Wan Kenobi. But I will say I really liked the final episode. I liked the series, but I feel I got to be honest with you. I think I feel more incomplete today than I did before we got this series.
Wow, that's a very Jedi thing to say too. I don't feel complete, Master.
No, I'm not complete, Master. Well, I don't know. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's not only is it a culmination of Ewan McGregor playing this character since 1999, but it's also a culmination of the fans wanting this to happen since the Disney buyout. Like you and I used to, it feels like a million years ago now. This feels like such a long time ago, but every Thursday night we used to park ourselves in front of a screen and watch Collider Jedi Council and listen to them talk about Star Wars news. And those people were always going on about how like, okay, we want an Obi-Wan thing. There's hints that an Obi-Wan thing is coming. We heard about a movie. We heard about this. We heard about a series. We don't know what's happening. And so it feels like ever since back then, it's been this looming entity, will it, won't it? And then when Obi-Wan, or rather when McGregor finally came on stage and said, yes, I will be playing Obi-Wan again, it became, okay, it's happening. It's just a matter of when, not if. And now we're finally here. So it really... it's not only that journey from Phantom Menace to now, but it's that journey from Disney bought Star Wars and they're going to make a bunch of spin-offs, and one of them's probably going to be Obi Wan Kenobi because that's what everybody wants, to finally coming to the end of that. And I feel the same way slightly that I did at the end of like Avengers Endgame, where it's like this thing that was kind of promised to us a decade ago finally happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it was this avenue of like, I don't think in 2012, especially, I don't think Disney as a company would have invested in a Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan Kenobi in any capacity. And I mean, the fact that his voice was even mildly used in The Force Awakens is one thing, but like Disney, and I know there's a lot of hate. It was like, it's not Disney, Lucasfilm, it's Lucasfilm. I'm like, but Disney is the company that owns Lucasfilm. And the prequels were hated for a long time, long time. And 10 years ago, they bought them 10 years ago. And so if you were 10 years old 10 years ago, you're now 20 years old. And now you're an adult, right? Like you're not a little kid anymore. You're an adult and you have a voice and you grew up with it. And I think I think there had to be a lot of things to factor in to Obi-Wan coming to our screens. And I think time was the biggest ally for it. I mean, in a lot of cases, time is not on your side. But I think for the Obi-Wan series, it was on your side because you also needed a little bit more time for Ewan McGregor to get older and for Obi-Wan to get a little bit older and be on Tatooine a little longer, and to have Luke and Leia be a little bit older, and the Empire really sinking its teeth into the galaxy. You needed that to kind of fit in a little bit more before you got this story. And so I think the fact that Disney was definitely hesitant on anything prequel era for the first decade worked in the favor of the show.
Yeah, the hesitation ended up being to its benefit, because who knows what we could have ended up with if we went with some of their first drafts. But I do agree with you on what you said earlier, that now that I've seen the bigger picture and I no longer have to reserve judgment and I can look back at it all, I think this really would have been better suited as a 2.5-hour motion picture, because there's a lot of fat here that you could trim that doesn't matter at the end of the day. And I mean, nothing against her in particular, but Indira Varma, I'm looking in your direction. You and your whole band of friends who are called the Path, who are kind of like rebels, but not really, and you're just hiding out on like a crater. That stuff doesn't need to be anywhere in the story, and you don't lose anything by just popping it out. And that just narrows stuff down more to what this is supposed to be about, which is what it ended up giving us, a story of Obi-Wan healing from the scars of the Clone Wars.
See, I think I could have dealt. I love this here. I thought this stuck to the ending very well.
Mm-hmm.
My few issues with it were mostly like the getting out of sticky situations always was way too simple.
Yeah.
Also, apologies for the sound that my car might be making. I am driving home. I had to pick up a Funko Pop for Brock from someone's. Actually, no. Steve, who joins us on Super Tuesdays on Digital Charcuterie, picked up a Funko Pop for Brock, and I had to go pick it up from him. And now I'm driving home from work and that. So just so everyone, so Brock is here in spirit.
This better be a damn good Funko Pop.
It's a Mr. Sinister. I'll show you a picture of it.
Oh, okay, that's a cool one.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But anyway, so it's all like the sticky situation stuff, but also what you just said. Like I loved the idea they had there. I loved her character. I love that idea very much. And even Reva McEntire, I love the idea of Reva more than the execution of Reva. And I might get some hate on that. I don't know. But I just feel like for me, the Reva, let's get like the Reva backstory when we learn it. I'm like, because it starts that way. Like, okay, so Reva's one of those children. Episode 5, like 4 or 5, right? And when you get it, it's open, which is like, oh, you were a youngling. It's like, yeah. For me, I just watched last night that episode 4, where Reva has Leia, and she's kind of interrogating her, but not really, but kind of is. And even rewatching it, I really feel like that whole scene plays out kind of, I don't know, it's very anticlimactic. You know, because the whole thing is with this series, as we said it a million times, is there's no stakes to the main characters in the series because we know their outcome. It has to be emotional stakes. And rewatching it, I was like, nothing is. The only point of that, obviously, is to put the tracking device in Lola. Nothing is said in that scene to grow either one of those characters. Like, there's no real purpose on that. And I'm watching it, I was thinking, like, I think it would have been beneficial had that scene been where we learned Reva's backstory and she's explaining it to Leia, and maybe getting Leia to turn on her people early on. I thought that might added some value to that scene, because that's a really short episode. We talked about it earlier. That's a really short episode, and really not much happens in it. I love the show, but I think as a movie, it would have benefited it, and maybe even in a couple extra. I hate to say it, a couple more episodes, just to expand on ideas they had, because I felt like this show had some of the most what's the word I'm looking for, Andrew? Forward progress ideas we've had in Star Wars in a long time. to expand on the lore and the galaxy where it is. And I don't think it hit the nail on the head on all but I think the ideas were there. The execution was just a little bit missed because of time and whatnot.
Sure, they only had 6 episodes to work with, and the stuff that they put in there in those little midway episodes that felt extraneous, it didn't have that room to breathe. You're right. So it's like either
Like the ideas are great. The ideas are great.
Sure, the path sounds interesting, whatever, but either give us 12 episodes so that we spend more time with these people and we care, or just make a 2.5-hour movie that they are not part of and focus on the Obi Wan of it all. But you said the magic words. You said emotional stakes, because Luke and Leia are not going to die. Obi Wan and Vader are not going to die. Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen are not going to die. So it all comes down to there's emotional stakes to this series, and how is everybody going to come out of it changed? And thankfully, for me, it gave me almost exactly what I wanted, and some stuff I didn't even know I wanted. James, what have I been saying since we started Rebel Scum? What have I been saying we needed to see happen in Star Wars that we have never seen happen, but it's important to see it happen?
Watto?
Well, obviously, that goes without saying, but something that actually took place in the show. I'll give you a hint. It was in episode 2.
What happened in episode 2? Haja? What? I don't know what.
Haja.
Am I not? What happened in episode 2?
Obi-Wan Kenobi finds out Anakin is still alive. That is as important a piece to the puzzle as you can get when it comes to Obi-Wan's storyline. And I've said it on the podcast a bajillion times, like if we ever get an Obi-Wan movie, whatever, that has to be part of it. Because that is a huge moment for this guy. He thinks, oh, I left him to burn, that's it, I walked away, and now I'm just going to live the rest of my life in this, strange house in the middle of the desert. But no, it turns out that guy you left to burn is not only still alive, but now he's like the second most powerful dude in the galaxy, and he is making life miserable for everybody. That's a big deal, because all of a sudden, what does that do? It throws guilt on Obi-Wan. It throws all of these conflicting emotions on Obi-Wan, and it's going to really mess him up. Uh-oh, and I have lost James, because that is how strong this whole thing is emotionally, that it probably just knocked out all the internet on James's phone. So while we wait for him to come back, I'm going to continue talking about why this was a huge deal and why it was exactly what I wanted to see. If you've been a fan of the podcast for however long you've been a fan of the podcast, whenever I come on the show, I always say, and I've said since the beginning, there's 2 things Star Wars needed to show us that it never showed us, which is Obi-Wan finding out Vader is alive and Vader finding out that Luke is his son. Because we get that beautiful moment where Luke finds out about Vader. We never see the flip side of that. And thankfully, back in, I think, 2015, Marvel, the comics, gave us that moment. They gave us that moment of Boba Fett coming back from a job where he was supposed to take out the guy who took out the Death Star. And he's like, look, Vader, I didn't get him, but I learned his name. And his name is Skywalker. And Vader's just silent. And that was one of the most powerful moments. Like, the comics have given us some really good stuff. I can't recommend them enough. But that moment in particular, and it's early on, so you don't have to go through much to get to it. It is exactly what that moment needed to be. And that moment needed to be in Star Wars. It needed to be somewhere for us, the fans, the readers, the viewers, whatever, to partake in. Because it's important, man. It's really, really important. So the fact that they gave us that notwithstanding, that's great. But then the fact that they also gave us what we needed to see with Obi-Wan, it told me that this show knew what it was doing, that moment was in it. And yes, it happened in episode 2, and then we had to sit through a little bit more to get there. But we got that moment, and that told me, at least, these guys are onto something, right, James?
Yes.
Yes,
Sorry,
James is back.
My phone overheated. It's a scorcher out today.
Ooh.
A scorcher. I don't know what you just said, because my phone overheated and I have no idea what happened. but I gotta say, I want to just because I just complained for a little while.
Go
That
for it.
moment of Vader and Obi-Wan at the end of their duel, when Obi-Wan kicks the crap out of Vader, and you hear Hayden Christensen and James Earl Jones. I thought that was such a great moment. I was really happy to see that, to hear that, I should say. And then you saw his face under the mask. And I think that is something that, because you recommended this, and it's my favorite Star Wars novel, Lords of the Sith. And what that book did so well for me was it put Hayden Christensen's Darth Vader in the original trilogy Darth Vader body, which was I think it was hard for a lot of people. Maybe not if you were a kid, maybe, I don't know. But don't forget, I was in my 20s for the most part during the prequel trilogy. So, like, it's hard to, and I love the prequels. Everyone knows I'm a huge prequel fan, always was. But it was still hard to kind of put them together, even though you see that moment at the end. It was still they were still kind of separate. And then Lords of the Sith really helped bind that together. And this moment, I think, is going to be one of those things that's going to bridge a lot of fans. It's going to be that bridge for a lot of fans to connect those two forever. Because it is easy to separate Hayden Christensen from the Vader mask because he never takes it off, right? It's not like Iron Man where, you know it's Tony Stark under there because it doesn't sound like him and it clearly doesn't look like him. So I thought that was a great moment. I did kind of wish, though, when the rocks fell on Obi-Wan, that was when we got Qui-Gon. Like, that felt like that Luke calling out and old Obi-Wan Kenobi coming to his aid.
Yeah.
But I thought, but I love that the new era of Star Wars is all about lifting rocks.
It is. That's all they lift now. They literally will not lift other things. Yeah, I had the same thought when he was getting buried. I had the same thought. I'm like, oh, this is where some ghosts show up. I like what they ended up doing with that duel even more. I like that there was no Qui-Gon to be seen in that duel.
I just kind of wish it happened at dusk.
Yeah, dusk would be nice. A little bit more lighting would have been nice. I want to know about the planet that they're on. I want some visual dictionaries for. God damn it, DK! Put those dictionaries out. What are you waiting for?
Wouldn't it be awesome? They can't do this for a multitude of reasons beyond their control. But I was really like, oh man, a moment with Qui-Gon and Vader, like a moment with them. Like, and Hayden Christensen wants a Vader show, and Ewan McGregor wants to do a season. If they do a season 2, we can't have any more Vader Obi-Wan. Like, that ship has sailed now. But I just a Qui-Gon and Vader somehow, even if Qui-Gon if Vader never communicates to Qui-Gon, but just seeing Qui-Gon and what happened to who he believed to be the chosen one, it could be very powerful. And like a lot could come from that. And I think, this is not a criticism of what we just watched, because again, like I said, I don't know how you would even do it at this, because you can't, because Vader can't, because if they communicated, that might be part of Vader coming to the light, which can't happen. So it's a slippery slope, but like that was something that I was like, oh man, I never even thought of it until watching this show, how powerful a scene that could be. I am going through a near dead zone. You should know. I am going through a near dead. So you might lose me. We might not, though. We might not. Just I'll let you know.
Well, we're at the mercy of the towers. We'll see. I agree. It would be powerful, but I don't think they should go that way, because Vader and Palpatine should not know Force Ghosts is a thing. Because as soon as they find out that's a thing, yeah, that creates some issue. Like, Palpatine will want to dedicate the rest of his life to figuring out, how can I do that? And when Obi-Wan, exactly, and when Obi-Wan says, I'll become more powerful than you can possibly imagine, that's him saying, you kill me, I'm going to become a Force Ghost and stick around and help Luke and do whatever, and there's nothing you can do. You can't kill me twice. So that's his ace in the hole. And so for Qui-Gon to show up in front of Vader spoils the ace in the hole. What I wanted to see in that duel, though, and I'm a little bit sad it didn't happen, was I wanted to hear Obi-Wan throw Padme's name in Vader's face. and say, like, is this what Padme would have wanted you to do? You know, something like that. I wanted him to throw out Padme's name and just see how Vader reacts to that, or even like Shmi's name.
I think that would have been. I think that might have actually been stronger in the first duel, because if he threw Padme at him, that might have triggered Vader in a way that would have given him more rage, and become more powerful on the dark side. Nice. Damn it, KK!
I missed all of that because of your dead zone. You want to say that again?
Also, my phone is on low power mode. I think the heat is really draining this puppy. I was saying that might have been good in the first duel, because it would have triggered him in a way, because he won that one, right? That might have triggered him in a way that would have really. But yeah, because they kept alluding to Padme. They never said Padme, obviously. I did like that moment with Obi Wan and Leia at the end, and I liked that Owen let him meet Luke towards the end. Of course, that's when he said hello there, which I thought, you know, people were complaining about the lack of. Now, look, I'm not a huge fan of the music in this show. I'm still not. I don't really want to talk about it. It's just I didn't feel like it was. It just felt underwhelming in a lot of ways, and whatever. But I will say they didn't use the Imperial March. I never.
Oh, okay, hold on. You're gonna have to give me that again. I lost everything after Imperial March. Okay, that dead zone is really wreaking havoc on James's phone. Everybody, this is why we need some kind of universal cell phone system that never breaks, some kind of magic thing that's better than comm towers. But while we wait for James to click back in, I'll swoop and dovetail on what he said about the music. I really liked John Williams's Obi Wan Kenobi theme. It's very quiet and subtle, like Obi Wan himself, and it also sounds like prequel music. It really harkens back to Qui-Gon's theme. It sounds very similar to that, so it really fit the prequel vibe that they had going on here. But I agree with James too. Apart from that, I can't really point out a whole lot of great motifs or cues or themes that this composer, I forget her name. Sorry, I don't remember the name of the lady who composed the show, aside from the one John Williams piece. But everything else that she's bringing to the table just kind of faded into the background. And maybe that was by design. I don't know. But the Vader music that she gave us was kind of generic, and everything else just kind of was not as memorable. There you are. You're back. All I heard was there's no Imperial March, and then that was it. Hello?
I lost you again.
Yeah. We heard everything when you said they didn't use the Imperial March.
Yeah, they didn't use the Imperial March, and everybody complained about it. And I haven't been a massive fan of the music in this show, and I'm not going to harp on it. It just something different, maybe more from Star Wars, whatever. But they used the Imperial March in this episode, and I thought it was used brilliantly, and it might have been the best use of music we've had in a long time in Star Wars, because it was used in the moment to me, and I feel like they purposely left it until this point, because for me this point is when Anakin truly ceases to exist. He has decided to forget Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's moved on. He is all in on the Emperor now. He's letting his past kind of die beside him. And the Imperial March played at that moment. And I thought it was used to perfection.
I didn't even catch the march playing on that scene. I think I was just too giddy because Palpatine was there. And
right when
I totally lost it.
It ends on that push out, and they go dun dun dun, and it was like perfectly executed. Because in the episode I was just talking about, episode 4, when they leave the Inquisitor base, there were a few Star Wars music cues that I really thought could have been utilized there, and they didn't, and they used, I don't know, some generic sounding scores. So that use of music, though, to me was pitch perfect. Watch it again, Andrew. Watch it again.
I will. I really think that, you know how like at UCLA or wherever the big film school is, USC, where all the famous directors go to learn how to be filmmakers. I think somewhere in that school, they need a whole course for people who want to be score conductors to kind of teach them how to do it the classic Hollywood way, because it feels like nobody except Michael Giacchino and John Williams know how to do it anymore. So I want I don't know, I want them to bring that back so that we don't have super generic music anymore, and we have great themes and all these big, beautiful movies and shows. But I want to bring it back to the emotional stakes and the emotional resolution of this show, because by God, James, and I told you this in a text after I watched it, I walked away from Obi Wan Kenobi. I put my foot down and I said, this is one of the strongest, emotionally strongest and emotionally most powerful things, period, with the Star Wars name on it, like across the 43 years that Star Wars has been a thing. Maybe you disagree, maybe you agree. I don't know. Are you still with me?
Yeah, I think a lot of people agree with you. I'm not sure if I don't know. I have to watch it again, to be honest, because I think it's up there. It's weird when we talk about Star Wars. I think it's like, you're probably right, but I don't think I associate that with Star Wars either. Do you know what I mean? Like, it had a lot going on. I have to think about that, but you're probably right. Like I said, I don't know if that's something that I really like. What?
You're right. It's not something that you would think about because it's not necessarily part of the Star Wars recipe. Like every one of the 11 movies, every one of the Star Wars movies has big, powerful, emotional moments, sure.
Yeah.
But aside from maybe the end of the Mustafar duel, I can't think of any of the movies having a moment as dark or as powerful as Reva on her knees in the sand, sobbing, asking Obi-Wan, like, did I become like Vader? Am I like him now? And him reassuring her, like, you're not like him. You know, you didn't sink that low. That really, really hit me. Like, that was a beautiful moment. And for her to just come out of the darkness, similar to Anakin holding Shmi, except she's got Luke, and you think like, oh my God, what did she do? And Owen and Beru are like, they don't even say anything. They just take Luke and they walk away. And she is completely outside of her head and completely removed from herself, thinking she has become the monster that took away her life. That you don't get that in the movies. You really, I can't think of a scene in any of the movies that is that raw.
Yeah, no, I think the context of it is, like you just pointed it out, is fantastic. And yeah, it's something. I think though, what for me personally, what might hinder it a little bit is I just think we needed more Reva, like more of Reva's thoughts. And like, I know the show's Obi Wan Kenobi, but we almost needed more time with her to fully understand. And I think that Leia scene, I think, would have added a lot to it if they would have changed that around a bit to really kind of understand why and what's going on. And the other thing, like, do we know, like, I gotta watch it again, but why did she go after Luke? Like, there didn't really seem like a reasoning for it. Do you know, like, it was just kind of like, well, I'm gonna go after Luke now. Like, I don't know what her motive was there. And so, like, and those little pieces kind of, for me personally, took away some of what you're talking about. Because I think I said this earlier, the Reva character has all the pieces, but she's just missing I like a little bit more backstory and growth. Like the backstories that I know, but we like I need more. I want to know more. I want to know that she's hurting, and I think if it was a movie, would have got more of that. And I think a couple of more episodes would have benefited her instead of her just being like raving mad. Like we could have got a glimpse into who she is just a little bit more, which would have added to the ending. Like how lost is she? Why is she lost? Like what we got, I didn't feel was enough to bring me to the place they wanted me to get to, and I felt that way I feel that way in a lot of new stuff. So maybe I'm just old, but it was a great moment, and I loved what they were doing with the character towards the end. I just felt like she needed a little bit more. Like I felt the second sister, but Fallen Order also has the benefit of being 15 hours long, or whatever. But I felt like the second sister was a little bit. They pulled her off a little bit better, if that makes sense.
Yes, they did. She came across as more frightening too. I don't know if it's because I knew I myself had to fight her when the cutscene ended, so that made it scarier. You're right though. As much as I love that scene on the moisture farm, Reva's motives are a little weird, especially because last time we see her, the Empire is basically leaving her for dead and saying, "You're nothing to us now, go away." So why go try to, why try to win back their favor when you just tried to kill Vader? And like, it was a really weird thing to go after Luke. You're absolutely right. I don't know if she was trying to get back at Obi Wan or what was going through her head. More time with her would have been nice to clear that up, but the end result of her just in the sand, in the dark, completely broken, was worth it because of what it gave us in terms of just like a crazy, dark, raw, emotional thing. Not to mention all the great stuff with Vader and Obi Wan. So to wrap things up, James, I'm standing firm on this hill. I'm dying on this hill that the Obi Wan show is the most emotionally powerful thing that Star Wars has done in ages, and like in the top 3 probably period of things that has been printed with the Star Wars name above it. And I don't think I want a season 2. Maybe a Vader show would be interesting if that's a real thing, but I am so content with this. The only way I would have been more content is, like you said, make it a 2.5-hour movie, cut out the fat, give some more room for Reva to breathe, and let it flow that way. But I'm happy with what we've got.
Yeah, I think if they did a second season, it would have to be almost like an anthology type thing where it's not connected to this really at all. Because he probably should never go into contact with Bail Organa again. Probably never Leia again. And so what do you do? And for me, if they did another season, I think it would bore people too for what I wanted. Because I love Book of Boba Fett, and I'm one of the 7 people that really loved it. But what I like about it was that it was just about like an old warrior who comes back from the dead, who emancipates like a town, right? Who kind of saves the town. And it's like whatever. It's an old Western trope. But Obi-Wan, I kind of would like Obi-Wan if they did another one to be the same type of thing, like just slow, not much action, just him learning from Qui-Gon, figuring things out, and maybe helping a few locals around. But then, Andrew, you're still on Tatooine, and nobody wants Tatooine except for me. So whatever.
Yeah,
and I'm not complaining about what this show was versus what I want. I'm just saying a second season, I want to watch more of Obi-Wan learning from Qui-Gon, dealing with the aftermath of Order 66, yada, yada, yada.
I want season 2 to be Obi-Wan goes to a bookstore in Mos Eisley and he can't find a visual dictionary on the adventure he just went on, and he gets very upset and demands that they make
Take
one.
that, Pablo.
Yeah. So there. What else are you doing, Pablo? Come on, get with it. I had a lot of fun with this show, though, and I'm glad that it seems like a lot of people did. The Twitter response that I have seen was pretty positive, and that makes me happy because what a way to go out.
It was fun. It was a fun show.
It was. And next is Andor, so I am excited, but that was one hell of a trailer, but don't even get me started on that. So that was our little Patreon exclusive look at the finale of Obi Wan. I had a lot to say, and I really wanted to dive into this. So thank you, James, for talking about the finale with
We'll
me.
do it again with Brock and me not in my car.
Yes, please be in a stationary location the next time we do it. All righty, everybody. Well, that is Obi-Wan Kenobi, episode 6. Tell us what you thought of it, if you loved it as much as we did. But until we talk again, may the force of others be with you.
Always?
Sometime.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.